Will this be the year that Kyle Wright figures it out at the major league level? How does Marcell Ozuna fit back into the clubhouse? We will look at some of the biggest storylines for the upcoming 2022 season. We'll also discuss who should get the start on opening day and go over some news and notes from the weekend, all on this episode of Lockedon Braves. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, where we talk about your favorite teams every day. I am your host, Jake Mastroianni. You can follow me on Twitter at shortstopball and check out my bio there to see where I am covering the game of baseball, including the Atlanta Braves in written form over at tomahawktake.com. Also, make sure you follow the podcast on Twitter at LockedOn_Braves and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe to us on YouTube as well. Do appreciate all the support there. And thanks for making Locked On Braves your first listen each and every day. We post episodes daily, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and are free and available on all platforms. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. So I hope you all had a fantastic weekend. I know it's spring break for a lot of people around here. Was able to take a trip to the beach with the family. Had a good time doing that. So hopefully you all are able to get that trip in before the Major League Baseball season starts. And then we are just full steam ahead with the baseball season, which is less than 2 weeks away. So super excited to be getting ready for that. Today, we're going to start our countdown looking at some of the biggest storylines for the 2022 season. Going to be going over several of those throughout this week. We're also going to talk about who should be the opening day starter for the Atlanta Braves. Brian Snitker playing a little coy with that. So I'll tell you who I think deserves the nod. And then we'll get into some news and notes over the weekend. Some great starting pitching performances. Right now, that race for those rotation spots looks very good, and there's a lot of great choices right now for Alex Anthopoulos and Braves and Brian Snitker to choose from. But let's start getting into the storylines for the upcoming season. What are going to be the storylines that we're going to be talking about through the entire 2022 season? Right now, I have 8 storylines that I want to talk about. May add some more as we get into this. And if you have some storylines that you're looking forward to following this season, let me know. But right now, I got my top 8. We're going to talk about numbers 8 and 7 on today's podcast. And at number 8, I got to tell you, this is kind of a make or break year for Kyle Wright, and something I'm going to be watching, really throughout this first couple of months or so, because I think we're going to know pretty early. Is this the year that Kyle Wright figures it out at the major league level? He's a former 5th overall pick in the 2017 draft. He's entering his age 26 season. 21 big league games over 4 years with the Braves, 14 starts, a 6.56 ERA, and a 1.686 whip. Those are just terrible numbers, in all honesty. Kyle Wright has been very bad at the major league level. We may see glimpses of it here or there, but just no consistency. He was outstanding at Gwinnett last year, and that led many people to think that maybe he started to figure it out. Maybe something has changed. He's worked on it. We've heard him talk about a little bit in spring training as far as him, the mechanics that he's worked on, where he's on the rubber, all of that. And then he comes into game 4 of the World Series and just has a brilliant outing, not a start, came on in relief, but it was basically a start, went 4 2/3 innings. And so he comes into this season with a lot of, I don't want to say hype necessarily, but I think there's definitely some optimism surrounding Kyle Wright at the moment. And this is an important year for him, I believe. I think this is kind of his make or break season. Does he figure it out? or does he kind of go the way that Sean Newcomb and basically Tukey Toussaint have at this point, where you are just kind of relegated to spot starts here and there, and maybe you get a look in the bullpen? That's really been the situation with Newcomb and Toussaint at this point. They've gotten their shots in the rotation, hasn't really worked out. I know Tukey's getting stretched out. He may get another shot. Newcomb has pretty much used all of his bullets with the Braves at least. Maybe he gets a shot to start somewhere else. But this is that year for Kyle Wright. Again, he spent parts of 4 seasons in the big leagues for the Braves. I know it's not a whole lot innings-wise, but still, I feel like this is the big year for him. Can we see that consistency from him? Can he hold on to a rotation spot? Because I think he'll get a chance to start the season in the rotation, slot into either the 4th or 5th spot in that rotation. So he looks like he's going to get a chance. He's looked really good in spring training. So have all the other starters that we'll talk about later. But I feel like he's going to start the year in the rotation, and it's going to be up to him to prove he can be consistent. Can he trust his stuff in the zone? Can we see him be aggressive with that sinker in the zone, creating weak contact like we saw him do in the World Series? If he can do that and do it on a consistent basis, then he can become the pitcher that many people thought he could be. Maybe not a frontline starter at this point, if some people viewed him as that, but perhaps a 3rd, 5th starter in the rotation, which I would take that gladly from Kyle Wright right now. So this is a big year for him. Again, it's something I think we'll be watching a lot this year, especially early on, because I think he gets a chance in the rotation. Can he hold on to that spot? That'll be a big storyline to watch this season. At number 7, the next storyline I think that we'll be watching for most of the year. Again, this one we'll probably see more early on in the season. What does Marcell Ozuna coming back look like? What does that look like on this team? He signed a 4-year, $65 million contract before the 2021 season, and honestly was just dreadful through 48 games. He was not very good. I wonder if Alex is regretting that deal a little bit at this point already. And then he gets the injury. He's going to be out for a while anyways, but then has the domestic violence situation, which kept him out for the remainder of the season. How does that look coming back into this clubhouse, a clubhouse that had a lot of great team chemistry, went on to win a World Series? And I know not everybody from that clubhouse is back with the team, but still, because of what happened, Ozuna pretty much left his team hanging. And, I've gone on record here on the podcast saying, I don't agree with what he did. I don't agree with the punishment. I believe it should have been harsher, but he's part of the team. He is part of the Braves. He's going to be part of this Braves team. I don't see that changing anytime soon. How does he get accepted back in the clubhouse? I think we're already seeing that a little bit in spring training. Seems like, from what I've witnessed, it seems like, he's getting along with everybody. He's addressed the team, kind of doing the things he needs to do. Brian Snitker said as much. He's doing what, he needs to do. So I think we're already kind of seeing him kind of ease back into the clubhouse, but I wonder what happens if he struggles again. What happens if, I sure hope not, something comes up off the field again. Is he going to be a cancer in the clubhouse, or is he going to be, that guy that everybody rallied around during the 2020 season? What is Marcell Ozuna in the clubhouse going to look like? Can he perform well enough on the field? Like I said, he was not good in those 48 games in 2021 before getting injured. What type of player are we even getting in Marcell Ozuna at this point? And we all know, performing well on the field will lead or leads to a lot of forgiveness off the field. There will be some of those who just can't ever forgive him. I'm not necessarily in that boat. Like I said, I don't agree with what he did. I think the punishment should have been more, but I'm all for forgiveness for second chances. I think if the Braves could have moved him, they would have, and they're not going to eat that money. So he is an Atlanta Brave. He's going to be part of this team. What does that look like? in what capacity, what kind of role does Marcell Ozuna play? I think that's going to be something I know I'm watching and keeping an eye on this year, and I think a lot of fans will as well. So those are two of my top storylines. Like I said, I'll be going over more of those throughout the week, looking at some of the biggest storylines for the Braves going into this season. Getting the opening day start is a huge gesture to the starting pitcher who receives such honor. The Braves have two worthy candidates for the upcoming season. Who deserves the nod? We'll discuss that next. It's that time of year again as college basketball's tournament is finally upon us, and the Final Four is now here. From all the latest odds, contests, and player props, betonline.net is the number one source for all your sports betting needs and info. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sport wagering information needs, including live betting in your favorite Vegas casino games. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Who should get the opening day start for the Atlanta Braves? Brian Snitker somewhat joked about it over the weekend that he's keeping it a secret for now. And he kind of has an idea of who it's going to be between Charlie Morton and Max Fried. He even had both guys pitch on Sunday to continue the suspense amongst the writers and fans. But like I said, it's between Charlie Morton and Max Fried, and it's great that the Braves have two starting pitchers, two of the best starting pitchers in the game right now to choose from for the opening day assignment. And that is, it's a big deal on that day. After opening day, it really doesn't matter. Everybody just kind of slots into the rotation. But, it is a pretty big honor to get that opening day start, especially when it's going to be at home. And thanks to the lockout, I guess one good thing out of the lockout is the Braves get to start the season at home finally. I think it's the first time since 2018. So getting that opening day start in front of what's going to be a crazy crowd. I finally got my ticket to opening day. Good grief. It's going to be, it's going to be a huge honor for whoever gets to do that. And I want to break down the arguments for each, and then I'll tell you who I think should get it. So the argument for Max Fried, he's been with the team the longest between he and Morton. He's probably the team's best starter. I think he is, but Morton is just as good, over 200 strikeouts a year. Fried got the opening day start last year. He pitched the final game of 2021 that clinched the World Series. That's probably the biggest thing for me. Max went out there and just shoved in Game 6 of the World Series, shut the door in that first inning, came walking off the field with just that mask of determination, and it was over after that. Especially after Soler hit the 3-run homer. That's why it's such an iconic and huge moment, because with the way Max Fried looked that day, you knew the Braves just needed one run while he was on the mound. And for that, I think he probably should get the opening day start. But the argument for Charlie Morton, he's a veteran. He started his career in Atlanta, came back, helped this team get to a World Series, helped them win a World Series. He did still pitch in that Game 1 before the injury and was really good. He broke his leg in the World Series. He didn't get to finish it with the Braves. It could be a nice gesture to say, hey, you weren't able to be there for the World Series, for the finish off the World Series with us. Here's an opening day start to be part of the celebration of that. That'd be kind of a cool gesture. To me, that's probably the biggest reason you would maybe give that to Charlie Morton. Max got to do it last year, so maybe now you give it to Charlie Morton. Charlie Morton does have one opening day start, but it came during that Mickey Mouse 2020 season with the Rays. So I don't know if you really count that or not. So again, there's good arguments for both sides. I think, like I said, the biggest reason to give it to Charlie Morton was because he couldn't be there to finish off that World Series. And I think the biggest reason to give it to Max Fried is because he pitched in the Game 6 of the World Series. He's the last person to start a game for the Braves. He could be the first person to start for the Braves in 2022 after clinching a World Series. So who do I think gets it? I think Max Fried gets the nod. Again, I think he's your ace. I think, obviously he just punched the ticket for winning a World Series, starting that Game 6, and just how dominant he was. I think he deserves it, and I think it's going to be Max Fried. That's kind of who I thought it would be all along. But again, two very good candidates, two very good choices. You can't go wrong. But I think it goes to Max Fried. But let me know if you disagree. You think it should go to Morton? Let me know in the comments below. Speaking of starters, the Braves got several great performances over the weekend. Who stood out to the most? We will discuss that next. This is the time of year I've pretty much given up on all my New Year's resolutions. I mean, we're almost in April. My resolutions are usually out the window, but not this year, thanks to Built Bar. It's not even a resolution at all because I enjoy eating them. You also have the puffs, which are protein infused marshmallows. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy. They're not just a protein bar, they're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. In fact, all Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. Low calorie, high protein. They're so good for you, and they're much better than your typical candy bar, which can be 200 to 300 calories. Most Built Bars contain just 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. And they got so many great flavors out there, from mint brownie, coconut almond, and my favorite, the cookies and cream. They are delicious. And new flavors are coming out all of the time. So make sure that you go and check out built.com. And while you're there placing your order, please use our promo code LOCKED15 so that you get 15% off your order. Again, use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. There were some really great performances over the weekend that I wanted to get into, some notes as well. As far as the news goes, there were more players reassigned from big league camp, including Jesse Franklin, Vaughn Grissom, Braden Shoemake, and Michael Harris. There are now 43 players in camp, in big league camp. So that means 15 more cuts to go to get it down to 28, which is what the roster will be for the start of the season through May 1st. As far as some of the cuts, I think Grissom and Harris both really impressed this spring. Neither were ever going to make the opening day roster, but I think they opened a ton of eyes. Harris did last spring as well. It'll be a huge year for both of them, though, as they look to try to compete for a roster spot potentially next spring, especially for Michael Harris. If he goes out to Double-A, I've said it on the podcast several times now, he goes out to Double-A and performs, he's going to get a chance next spring to compete for a spot in the outfield. I truly believe that. It'll be interesting. I already talked about, what could happen with Dansby Swanson. Is he the shortstop of the future? If not, do they turn to Vaughn Grissom? I know not a lot of people think maybe he doesn't stick at the shortstop spot, but can he continue to develop there? Does the bat continue to play as he moves up levels? I'm really excited. Those may be the two prospects, and Spencer Strider, that I'm most excited about to watch this upcoming season. And I don't know if you missed it or not. There wasn't a ton about it that I saw, but Mark Bowman posted a letter from Freddie Freeman on MLB.com, pretty much apologizing for the way he responded to some of the questions in his press conference, and specifically in reference to Alex Anthopoulos. Said he and AA are on good terms. It was a nice letter from Freddie, not necessarily necessary, but just trying to patch things up a little bit. That wasn't, as Alex Anthopoulos said, that wasn't the Freddie Freeman we know in that press conference. I think he was just shook by the fact that he wasn't an Atlanta Brave anymore. I don't think he ever thought for a second he would not be with the Atlanta Braves. I've been down that road, not going to go down it any further, but nice gesture by Freddie Freeman just to write that letter and kind of patch things up there. Let us know, the fans know, respected everybody in the organization, respected Alex Anthopoulos, and, loved his time with the Atlanta Braves. He's looking forward to his new chapter in Los Angeles, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, there were some, like I said, some outstanding pitching performances over the weekend. Ian Anderson, Tucker Davidson, and Charlie Morton all shoved over the weekend. Ian Anderson, 3 innings, 2 hits, 1 walk, no runs, 4 Ks. Davidson, 3 innings, no hits, no walks, no earned, 4 Ks. I got to watch most of that start. Even though I was at the beach, got to watch that while the kids were napping on Saturday, and Tucker Davidson looked really, really good. Charlie Morton, 4 2/3, no hits, 1 walk, no earned, and 5 Ks on Sunday. So just some amazing performances. Brave starters lead all teams in ERA this spring, and 5 different starting pitchers have yet to give up an earned run. It's spring training. I think the pitchers are well ahead of the hitters at this point, but still, that's pretty impressive. And you have guys that are fighting for rotation spots, so they're certainly pitching for something, which could be part of why they are being so dominant. But that is certainly great to see. I'd rather have that than not. But we'll have to see how the rotation shakes out. For me right now, I would have it Max Fried, Charlie Morton, Ian Anderson, Kyle Wright, Waskari Noah, and Tucker Davidson. I think they do go with the 6-man rotation. Been saying that for quite a while now, and Brian Snitker even hinted at it. So I think they go with the 6-man rotation. I think those are the 6 that get it. I think that last spot's between Davidson and Muller, and I think Davidson is a little bit more polished, even though I think Muller maybe has a little bit more upside, but Davidson, he looked really good. So that's what I would go with right now if I were picking the team, the rotation out of spring training. Fried, Morton, Anderson, Wright, Enoa, and Davidson. Other note from the over the weekend, Eddie Rosario is an adventure in the outfield. I think most Braves fans know that by now. He kicked the ball around out there on Friday, and then he made a terrible throw on Saturday. I mean, just an average arm, probably would have got the runner at the plate. But I mean, he's charging in a ball from right field, and he spiked it almost in the infield. Barely even got to the infield grass, and then 5-hopped its way to home plate and still almost got the guy. That's why I say if just an average throw would have been made, they probably could have got the guy at home. So I worry about this outfield defense maybe more than I should, but if there is ever a point in time where we have Ozuna in left and Rosario in right field, that's going to be problematic. So Acuna, I hope you can get back into the outfield soon, because this outfield defense gives me some nightmares. Speaking of outfield defense, they also put William Contreras out there in right field, trying to find a spot for him. I gotta take that to mean they just don't see him learning it defensively at the catcher position, which is kind of sad in a lot of ways. I would like to see that happen. It also tells me the Braves are just fine signing veteran catchers to 1 or 2 year deals and just letting that be their catcher tandem. They've done it for 6-7 years now, going back to Kurt Suzuki and Tyler Flowers. And it's been a successful strategy for them, just signing veteran catchers to cheap deals on 1-2 year contracts. But yeah, William Contreras getting a shot in the outfield, trying to find a way to work his bat and give his bat a chance to play. He can hit the ball for sure, but is he going to be able to be good enough defensively, whether it be a catcher in the outfield, maybe he becomes a DH, who knows? But that was interesting, so I wanted to make sure to note that. And then Spencer Strider, who I just mentioned a minute ago, he will get the start on Monday. So that should be a lot of fun to see there how he does in that starter's role. Not going to make the opening day rotation, but like I said, I think he has the most upside of any arm in this system. So anytime you get a chance to watch him, need to make sure to do so. So that will be exciting on Monday. And that will do it for this episode of Locked On Braves. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at LockedOn_Braves. You can follow me at ShortstopBall. Also, make sure you subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube as well. And we will talk to you next time.